the line, the world of the unknown is getting bigger.
Yes.
I thought it was like, that's a great line.
Yeah, and like they're still learning up into the minute of anything new coming out. They have no idea what's going to be next, but they're slowly understanding things to make their Ava better against the angels.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool. They didn't even understand the AT field until Shinji actually used one in a weird way, and then they started using it afterwards. So, they're building upon this while they're having to defend everything, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Now, this scene was always funny. The one coming up here is wherever they're at recess.
Yeah.
They're like, there's the girls are swimming up above, and the boys are all playing basketball.
And Shinji and the other guys are sitting up against the wall there.
Yeah, Toji and Ida, Kinsuke. They're all sitting there making fun of each other. They're razzing him. He's like,
"Oh yeah," because Shinji's just like looking.
Yeah, he's just staring at Rei the whole time. And they're like, oh, "Don't you want to see her milky white calves?" What the fuck, right? I don't think that was in the original translation. I don't remember it being like that. Maybe they said something like "dirty pillows" or something like that. So it was weird. But at the same time, you can hear the girls' conversations like, "God, whenever Toji's staring at me, he's creepy." Right. So all the boys are staring at the girls swimming, and the girls are just like talking about that. I find that was pretty funny.
And probably very true to most people's high school.
Junior high.
That's
it's all 8th grade for them and shit like that, which is pretty funny. That whole little scene, that's more interaction, and he's still just thinking about her.
Right.
He's been thinking about her this whole time, and now that he found out that his dad actually, saved her. He's kind of a little bit more intrigued. Like, what makes her so special, more special than me, which is kind of weird.
Right.
And then that's whenever they're in. Shinji's actually sitting inside of his Ava, and Rei's like doing some work on her Ava or doing something, or entry plug or something like that.
Right.
Gendo comes over, and she's all like about him.
Yeah.
Like talking with him, interactive.
And he's
smiling.
talking with her.
Right. They're actually having he
softens a little bit.
Whenever she's around, which is another allusion to something else is going on, which is really cool. So you really have no idea what's happening. Now again, we kind of get into more of the more anime portion of this, which is really cool. So they're inside Misato's apartment again, and Dr. Ritsuko's there, and they're all sitting there, and like they had made curry or something like that, some weird slop curry.
Yeah, like something they had to boil. Like you boil it in a bag or a cup.
Yeah, well, Misato's was a cup.
Yeah,
she's like, okay, it's my turn, and like she had made the curry or something like that. It was instant curry.
Yeah, so because that curry's better than the curry.
Yeah, the curry flavored ramen that you get. Yeah, it's weird. So she opens her ramen up, takes the plate off of it. It's like, I don't put a lot of water in this, so just slop it all in there. And they both just like, they take one bite and they're like, oh my God.
Well, we even see Pin take a bite.
Yeah.
Does he die?
Yeah. Well, they show Pin looking around the corner like, what the fuck? And then he actually, he's got a beer and a fucking half of a bowl full of this weird curry shit.
Right.
And he's even just Pin's like, ugh, already. Cause he's a sentient fucking warm water penguin, which is that comedy element for it. So he takes one bite and fucking like passes out because it's so fucking gross. I always thought that was a funny part too, just to see that interaction and how they still are like, Misato's still living in this weird kind of a like instant life.
Well, Ritsuko even says, she's like, how can someone ruin something that you boil in a bag?
Yeah. How can this be so bad? It's so gross. She's like, did Misato make this? Well, how did you know? Which is pretty funny.
And that's when she gives the security card to.
Yeah, she's like, oh, speaking of security cards, because Ritsuko tells Shinji, you need to move out.
Yeah, get out of here.
You need to get out of here.
You're going to pick up some bad habits.
But then Misato's like, well, I don't want him to. He can't leave. You know how much paperwork that is? I just got him back in security clearance again. Oh, by the way, Shinji, would you get me a beer, please? Like, already,
right.
And she says, well, next time you invite me over for food or dinner, make sure it's Shinji's night to cook. Which then you get into that, here's the card. I need you to drop that off.
Yeah.
I forgot to give it to her. This is her new security card. Would you mind running this over before school tomorrow and giving it to her so she can actually get through the door? Which, Shinji just stares at the fucking picture because he's still just, he doesn't know who she is, doesn't know anything else, but knows she's another pilot and would probably like to get her. And then he gets razzed too.
Yeah, he's getting shit from all ends. Misato starts in on him.
Yeah.
Damn, come on.
It's
Kid's
like
14, leave him the fuck alone.
Yeah, of course he's gonna stare at the picture. He's probably gonna do a lot more with it later.
Whoa,
Boing. Which is kind of funny because, I mean, I don't know why they don't have like couriers or anything like that in this time period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, here, let me drop this off in your
trying
mail.
to save the world, sir.
Right.
That's why.
And there's only like 85 people that live there anymore. They've all escaped.
That's why you can just give it to somebody and be like, "Can you give that to her when you see her?"
Yeah,
it's like a small town.
Yeah, I know you got to walk like fucking 18 miles and take 4 trains to get there, but here you go. But then
doesn't Risco say the line, just like your father, she can be a bit awkward at life?
Yeah, awkward at life. Yeah, that was something that I took down too. He just basically, Shinji's nervous and he's kind of scared about it a little bit because he doesn't know her, doesn't know where she goes. And then Risco, she does say is she's just like Gendo. Raised just like Gendo in the way that she's awkward at life. Yeah. Which that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. They're good at their job, but as far as any other human interaction, they have nothing to do with.
Which maybe you see that's a reason why they interact the way they do together.
Correct. So they kind of feel each other a little bit better. Right. In a way. Which he almost, it seems like he's almost adopted her as his own child, you know? Just kind of raised her in a weird way. Right. This is the most awkward scene, I think.
So he goes to her apartment. Yep. And of course the door's open, so he walks in.
But there's nobody else around, too.
No, nobody else around.
Yeah, it's like a seedy part. Would Shinji have lived in his own place like this before he moved in with Misato?
Probably.
Is that where they had him? Is this weird block? It's like kind of like in a back alley block. Weird. And you see how fucked up the house is. Absolutely. There's no personal possessions, but it's kind of messy, but not really. Blood all over everything.
Yeah.
Because all of her bandages, she's got the medications on the deal. Nobody's there, but you just hear those sounds, and I like the way that they use the sound effects in this. It's like she's in an industrial part of the actual city, but it looks like half of it's burned. The lights aren't working right. Things are just fucked up, right?
Right. So I wonder if she just got to choose, and she's like, "I want to live here where it's all depressing."
Yeah. I just want to live in a depressing part. They're like, "Got one for you." They just this whole block moved out. Just pick your own. Like maybe she just went there and started living there, but she'd probably been there for a long time because she's got her own little dresser. She's got her own bed.
Well, yeah, and we find out she owns a lot of bras.
Yeah,
a lot of bras.
Yeah, a lot of bras and undergarments.
Yes.
Which, Shinji kind of walks in and he's like, "Hey, I'm here to bring this," and still nothing. You can see that the mail at her door has been there forever.
Right.
It's all full. Just but there's not a lot of possessions like in Misato's room.
Right.
Misato's room is just full of boxes and possessions. Rei has no possessions whatsoever except for her daily clothes, her medication, and her food. Yep. Not much of anything else. So you don't really get to see a lot of into her, which is more of a mystery for her. That's when Shinji sees his dad's glasses and was like, "Oh, well, I'm just going to go fuck with her shit."
Yeah, right.
He goes,
let me go through your personal shit real quick.
Yeah. Do you have a diary? Let me read it. So he grabs the glasses, puts them on, and that's whenever he hears her coming out of the shower, which is kind of awkward too. It's kind of a weird deal. She just comes out and she's like, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
They both kind of freeze, and they're both kind of, that's the first kind of hyper, I guess, hyper sense that she has is just like she freezes a little bit, right. But not much because it doesn't affect her that much.
No.
But then she gets pissed off because he's wearing the glasses. Those aren't yours. And she goes to grab them, and Shinji's so goddamn awkward anyway that like he's gonna fucking fall down, right? Because she's naked in front of him,
right?
And of course he's been thinking about her, looking at her from afar, everything like that, and she's naked in a room and it's just them. So boing, he's like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" You know what I mean?
Well, so what happens though is that he falls on top of her.
Yes.
And panties and
the whole drawer comes loose.
Comes flying, right? And he lands on top of her nakedness.
In the most awkward position.
Hand on her,
hand on her boob, right on top of her. And they both stare at each other for a little bit. There's that uncomfortable silence and Shinji's just like, do I go any further or I'm just gonna get up? Whoa,
I don't think that was a question. I just think he didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's like, this is the weirdest fucking thing in the world. And she's like, "Will you get off of me, please?"
Right.
And that's pretty much all her reaction is. And then he's like, "Oh yeah," and then he gets up and
he starts explaining himself.
Yeah, I'm here to drop off your security card. Risco didn't give it to you, and I needed to give you this card. And then this card,
and she just turns around and leaves.
She gets dressed right in front of him.
Yeah.
Gets all ready to go, and then just walks out the door because he finally turns around.
Right.
Because at first he's just watching her, and then he finally turns around to give her privacy, and then she walks out the door.
Right.
So he followed. They're on the train together, but they're not sitting by each other. Right. They're going through. What is it? They finally get to Nerve headquarters, and her badge won't work. Then he gives it to her.
Right.
It's here you go. This is what I was there for, and this is why I was there. Here's your new badge. She goes in, but she snatches it out of his hand. She's like, yoink.
Absolutely.
She's kind of like, that's mine. God damn it. It's a little bit more of her emotion kind of coming out, more stern kind of emotion for it. But then whenever they're riding the escalator, they're kind of talking a little bit together, and he asks her, or she asks him at that point, something about believing in.
Well, he goes, "Aren't you afraid?" And she's like, "Why? Don't you have faith in the work of your father that your father's doing?"
Yeah, and he's like, "No."
And he's like, "Of course not."
Yeah,
not a father like him,
Yeah, no.
And that's when she slaps his ass.
She slaps the fuck out of him and is mad at him.
Yeah,
because he doesn't believe what his father's doing.
Right.
He has no idea.
Yeah.
She does.
Well, I don't think that she doesn't. She knows that he doesn't have as much knowledge.
Correct. Correct. She knows that he just kind of showed up. She's not jealous or anything. You can just tell that that's not any kind of part of it. But you can tell that she's just like, no.
Yeah. Don't
talk that away about your dad. He saved my life, and he did this and he did that.
And he's fighting to save us all.
He's raised me. He's got this grand idea for us, which is pretty cool. Whenever she's sitting there, basically putting on her entry plug suit, she's getting into the suit, and she's kind of recounting all the things that have been happening in her head. So you kind of get a little glimpse into what she's thinking about. Still ultra quiet, just like all down to business, everything like that. She puts on the suit, and you can kind of hear the things going on, like, Gendo yelling and everything that they've been talking about. That's whenever they show the outside and the fifth angel showing up.
Right.
So it's like they were there for testing.
Goes to hell.
Yeah. They were testing everything, and then the other angel shows up with the triangle, and we'll get into who this angel is on the next episode. But that's it's just so crazy how she is like all about Gendo the whole time, and Shinji is, his son, but yet she almost feels like a daughter to Gendo, maybe.
Right.
I don't know if that's way, or she has some sort of
She definitely has some respect for him,
Yeah.
Obviously.
Allegiance to him,
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and then the reactivation's a success.
Yeah. Yeah, because they do it again, because it actually does go through, and she's cool.
Yeah.
So it's like she's calmer, or something is up. Something is different about this Rei, than it was the other Rei. Because I think, and again, I think the reason why they really call her Rei I is because she was the first one.
Right.
Now the one that they're seeing is Rei III or Rei II.
Right. Okay.
So there's multiple Reis that are there. That's why they're really kind of going through it. And once we get a little bit more into it, you'll see why I say that and why they're like this.
So and I'll just give you my assumption on that piece before we finish this up, because I know we're going into that final arc. And again, I don't know anything, first time seeing it, but my inference from what happened was when he was punching that thing, or punching the window at Gendo, she, I guess, the Eva, or the Ava.
Yeah.
That it was Rei's anger at him, like kind of how Shinji is angry at him, but there's a different respect now because he went in and saved her, and they have a different interaction now. Yeah. So again, that's just my inference. I don't know if that's fact, but that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, that she was kind of going for him.
Changed,
or maybe it was something in the Ava.
Could have been, But I would think maybe it's just like a repressed, like why you got me doing all this stuff, blah 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 blah, kind of a deal. Like, maybe I don't know.
There's still a lot about the Avas that you don't know about,
Truth.
that you don't get to see.
Truth.
So you don't get to see what really makes them tick, and that will come up.
Cool,
which is really cool. Ramiel is the next angel that shows up, and so they're getting kind of prepared for this. But then they put Rei on hold, even though she tested 100%.
Ready.
Yeah, she's not ready to go.